let me welcome you and introduce you to the UTMB winner of 2025, Tom Evans. Big round of applause, please. Thank you for joining us, Tom.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's been a pleasure to spend some time with you this year, and so much so that I was desperate to get you to Kendal. And you probably realised that when I invited Red Bull, ASICS, Garmin, Morton, and then we obviously got Sophie an invite to the race tonight. So could you tell that I was putting a bit of pressure on you to commit to coming?
Well, yeah, I was told by my other partners that I had already confirmed that I was going. So they said, because you're going, we'll go into it. So I'm pretty sure you had told everyone that I was going, and then they invested in it. So, but no, I would have been here anyway. We're incredibly lucky. The lake is only 3 hours drive from home, and try and get up here as much as possible. And it's our daughter's Phoebe's first trip up here. So yeah, incredibly special to be here, and yeah, great to be back. And thankfully after a good UTMB.
Brilliant, yeah. And we're going to go straight into UTMB, and the chat is going to be centered around that because it's the biggest trail race in the world. Let's not make any bones about that. We've got a nice slideshow of images that are coming on. I'll probably kind of draw attention to some of those when they come on, because we've got the kind of preparation, mid-race, and then the finish. But let's cut straight to the chase. Crossing that finish line to win UTMB, I mean, it doesn't get much more special than that, does it?
Yeah, I think it's very easy to look at the finish line picture and see sort of the incredibly happy emotions. For me, the finish line photos are great, but the memories I get from that isn't from the finish line. It's from the months and the years leading up to it. And yeah, it's very easy to see the trophy, to see the medals and think that that's it. And I know it's so cringy to say that it's all about the journey and not the destination, or process, not outcome. And with this, it couldn't be more true. And I think it's been, I look back at the finish line pictures and they are incredible, and there is so much emotion there. But for me, that's just the emotion from the previous years and the months and the weeks leading up to the race, making it an incredibly special moment to share.
We'll come back onto the preparation in a minute, but you've podiumed before at UTMB. A few years ago, you were third, which is, again, an incredible result. I watched that race. I saw you come past Jim Walmsley on what was the final climb, really, up to La Flégère. An amazing achievement, but obviously you always wanted more. You always saw that top spot, because I guess UTMB is the pinnacle of the sport. So the hunger was there, and were you always going to come back until you'd scratched that itch?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's very difficult when you have a really good race and you outperform when you're not necessarily that well prepared. I'd had fairly major knee surgery 12 months before. I went into the race kind of not really expecting anything in 2021, I think, or 22 maybe, 22. And to be able to finish third I genuinely didn't expect that. I then think going back in 2023 and 2024, having had a good race, thinking, I didn't train particularly well, I had a really good day, is it just going to happen again? And I look back I raced Western States in 2019, I was third, I then came back and I won it the next year. So I was like, I finished third at UTMB, I'm going to win it next year. And I've had amazing training leading up to it. I've done absolutely everything I can do. And I think I definitely approached it in a wrong way. I wouldn't say an arrogant way, but in a way where everything was focused on sports performance rather than focusing more on the elements and the race itself. And probably got a little bit too obsessed with data and trying to squeeze out every inch of performance. Whereas then the major change from this year was, let's just be happy as much as possible and get the training you need done. It doesn't need to be pretty. You don't have to have any amazing sessions, but just get to the start line feeling excited for the race. And I think we absolutely nailed that this year.
Definitely. And we're going to go really deep into the preparation, but I'm just going to kind of draw upon a competitor of yours, a rival, Jim Walmsley, who has now won UTMB. He's won the race. He's the current holder. of the record, but he didn't do it the first time round, and he had to move out to Chamonix, or near to Chamonix, Beaufort, train in that environment and completely transform his life around to do that. And it took him a while to get there. It's taken you a few years to get there, but you've learned something every year. But your preparation was a lot different to Jim's. You didn't choose to move to Chamonix or to the area. Why was that?
I think it's what makes this race the most special for me, and my biggest accomplishment within running is it didn't come easy. If you ask me to train for something flat or something fast, whether it's a marathon or it's Western States or any of those races, then I think for me it comes really easily. You don't need skills, you just need a big engine and be injury free. Whereas for a race like UTMB, you need a big toolbox with lots of tools. You need to know how to fuel on climbs, how to use poles, how to descend efficiently, how to adapt in changing weather conditions. All of those things, having not come from a mountainous background, didn't come easily. So I think for someone like Jim, who's a very similar background, he needed to fully immerse himself and almost become French in order to be able to perform well at the race. And he, after spending 6 months in the Alps, in 2023, he didn't have the race that he had hoped. And then, the year before. So it took him 18 months of living in France to have the result. And I think for me, I built up that much time in France over the last couple of years, from spending a couple of months there every year, that I've built up enough experience. We're incredibly lucky with the UK. So we live in the Peak District, and being able to train there is actually, a lot of the time, can be very similar conditions to the Alps, obviously not as high. But I think it was just a lot of learning, and every time that I made mistakes, sort of really delving deep into why it happens, taking responsibility for those mistakes, because you can have the greatest team around you that you want, but it's still you on race day. It doesn't matter if you've got the best data scientists, the best coaches, the best support crew. That's all really helpful. But at the end of the day, it's you who's got to do the running. So laying those foundations is key for that team. But then on race day, it's kind of, you let out the stable and you go to work. And I think I learned so much in every edition of UTMB, and then in other races, whether it was, take this year, for example, I raced the Arc of Attrition at the beginning of the year, another UTMB race, but has managed to keep all of the spirit of the race, which is incredible. To be able to race that in Cornwall at the beginning of the year, and then go to Tenerife Blue Trail, racing in altitude, racing in the cold, and then to UTMB, there's no, if you look at the races that I do, every race leads to the next race. And I guess similar to UTMB this year, yes, it was a bit more of a pinnacle race, but everything serves a purpose.
Having that preparation in the peaks and spending the majority of the time training the peaks. I know you did some altitude walks and you were going out and doing these various races, but having your friends and your family sort of around you, that was really important in the build up to this, wasn't it? I think you said to me before once that because you were happy in where you were and you were content and you could escape running when you needed to, it really helped with the preparation this year, didn't it?
I think it's so easy as a professional athlete where, yes, you train a lot. Say I train 30 hours in a week. If you had a work week of 30 hours, you'd think, oh, this is easy. It's not. You're really not training very much. A long run might be 6 hours, 7 hours maybe, and you've got the rest of the day to do nothing. I've completed Netflix a few times, and people sort of think, oh, it's amazing you've got the recovery in between, but it can be incredibly boring and it can be incredibly lonely. And when you're out on an altitude camp in Teen or wherever on your own, you're sort of just bouncing around a small French apartment. The food's bad, you've got no company, it's fairly miserable. So I guess our mindset going into this year was, let's sort of bring the tribe, let's bring the village with us. And whether that's friends, family, physios, it made such a huge difference that you get back from running and the first question, oh, how was your run? Yeah, it was great. Okay, cool, it's finished now. Whereas if you're on your own training, you're sort of going into the depths of Garmin, seeing what your vertical oscillation was for a run. And that's all really good, really important data. But at the same time, once you've done it, you've done it. Let's just move on. Let's go out, let's go get ice cream, let's go take the dogs for a walk. It's just relax. It's not think about the race. So then when you're actually then on the start line, you're ready to go. Because you don't have, a lot of people, when I did a little bit of coaching, a lot of people say, oh, I don't think I'm in that good shape now. And it's like, okay, well, it doesn't matter. Your race isn't, you've got another 6 weeks until you race. You don't need to be in your best shape until race day. And I think that's definitely something we carried through for the whole of this year. And having Phoebe in the middle of May, I was in, not great shape in May, but it didn't matter. I didn't need to be in good shape. So then, we all then went out to Chamonix in July, and it was incredible to have everyone there and just made training fun. And typically if you're having fun and you're happy, you train better. And I trained so well when I'm at home. And yes, Loughborough there aren't mountains in Loughborough, but you can do a lot of work with a treadmill and some hills and a good attitude.
And I know ultimately you've got to get it right on the day. You've done all the preparation, but aside from your friends and family, you have built a team around you. How important is that team? Because we've talked before about you like to bring people with you on the journey. That's very important to you, isn't it? So, who is in this kind of the team? What does the makeup look like of the team that you work with?
So I guess on my Tom Evans performance WhatsApp group is myself, my coach Scott Johnson, so his deputy, a guy called Joseph, who does all of our data analysis. And does anyone know what a digital twin is? Some nodding heads. Basically, it's you can program an algorithm to do a race for you at certain paces and find out which one's going to finish fastest, plugging in all of your fitness data. I don't really understand either. And so the pacing strategy that I used was basically off a computer algorithm from a digital twin, because I think 8,750 versions of me raced UTMB the day before, and I hit the exact splits that algorithm person, bot number 4,000. I probably not explained it that well to those who nodded, but he's incredible. My nutritionist Paul Booth, who's based at Leeds, we did a lot of work with carbohydrate utilization. There's a lot of talk at the moment on high carbohydrate fueling, and actually it's been a really interesting study now in trail running that basically went against the hypothesis that actually high carb fueling in trail running doesn't work because of the stomach issues that you get typically running downhill. So now the barrier has now gone down to 90 grams of carbs an hour. Whereas in previous years, I thought, more is more. Let's just snatch 120, 140 grams of carbs an hour for the whole race. Yes, there were some hours where that was what I was taking because I trained myself to do it and I was able to do it. But my superpower, I guess, in trail running is my efficiency, being able to run relatively fast, 16 kilometers an hour, 10 miles an hour, and only burn 40 grams of carbohydrate, which I don't think you might have a few Kenyans who could do that, but it was the best. It was the most interesting testing they'd ever done at the University of Leeds. They've never seen any data like it before. So I could do a UTMB if I didn't fuel for 2-3 hours. Doesn't really make an awful lot of difference, and I think that's what makes my physiology a little bit different. And then recently added into the group is my physio soft tissue guy, Ben Higgins, who, he's a 25-year-old ex-pro athlete. He's qualified for, I could have a much better physio. He's not a physio. He is trained in sports massage, but he's a really good friend. I trust him. I've seen him once a week for the last 3-4 years. And he's been on this journey with me, and it's been absolutely incredible. So that's the core performance group, but then have got some amazing people around me, whether it's Soph, where I can sort of just bounce ideas off, or should we do this or not? And I guess, the final person is my psychologist or / neuroscientist, a guy called Dr. David Spindler. And it was him who, sort of brought in the idea of we just need to get you happy. He is, the most intellectual person I know. And we came up with a strategy at UTMB. One thing that I started doing with Phoebe when she was younger, as soon as she started making some noises, was howling like a wolf. I don't know how it started, but it started. So then at the top of every climb, sorry, some spam calling me. At the top of every climb at UTMB, I howled at night. And for me, it just put a massive smile on my face, and the endorphins that would have been released from doing that. It seems so basic and so meaningless unless it's you. And I think a lot of the time that you see some people doing things and you think, oh, what on earth's going on there? And it makes no sense. But actually for me, that was the only people sort of say, oh, what were the mind games that you used and what was the psychological help that helped you at UTMB? It's howling like a wolf at night. Means nothing. If anyone else tried to do it, it wouldn't work. Whereas for me, because I had such a strong link with it, for the next 10 minutes, I was smiling and I was happy. And you think, oh, actually, it's not that bad, is it?
Cue everybody howling tonight on Quid Games. But generally, that's one of the reasons why I sort of wanted to get you here, for those little insights, those little things that people would never know unless we were in an intimate discussion like this, an intimate talk.
And actually on David, if anyone wants to learn more about David, he did an amazing, if anyone's watched the Mark Cavendish documentary, he's the psychologist in that, he's incredible. And I'm definitely the smallest fish he's ever worked with. He did an amazing podcast with Rich Roll. If you're interested, have a listen. It's, incredible, and you'll learn a lot from it.
And one of the things you mentioned there was nutrition. And I've spoken with Paul at length as well. And we actually have one of your sponsors in the house now, Morton, with us, who've been your sponsors for a number of years. I want you to talk to us about your fueling for UTMB. I know you mentioned about the carb load, but talk about the traffic light system and the approach and that visual approach for how you went into the race.
Yeah, so I am a very visual person. I can see, if I close my eyes, I could see a route profile, whereas I couldn't see the numbers in the splits. For me, that doesn't work. And I think everyone talks about fueling is carbs per hour because it's really easy if you're good at numbers, whereas for me, that doesn't work. So we operate on a traffic light system, having done the testing, running flat, uphill and downhill, trying to replicate the climbs of UTMB, knowing how many carbs my body burns and how much energy it costs me to do certain parts of the course. When you're fueling, you're not fueling for that moment, you're fueling for an hour down the line. So if you know you've got a big climb coming, that's when you're most inefficient. And if you're hiking, you've not got any elastic energy with you, so it's all muscular, you're using way more fuel for that. So what you typically see is you get to a climb, everyone starts eating, but that's not going to hit your body until an hour later. So if it's a 45-minute climb, those carbs then getting in your body when you're starting to descend, and then your stomach goes. And there's a lot of nodding heads, so I think a lot of people have been there, and we don't need to go into much detail of stomach go. So me knowing that I am very efficient running on the flat, basically our traffic light system was green for high carbs. Whenever I was on the flat, and typically when you're in the mountains, when you're running on the flat, you're about to go uphill. So when we were on the flat, I was fueling high carb. There was about 110, 120 grams an hour. Then when we were on the uphills, typically what follows an uphill is a downhill. I know that on the downhills, I'm efficient, so I don't need many carbs. And then when on the downhill, it's then really hard to fuel. So you fuel as much as you can, but it's difficult because your stomach's going like that. So we implemented this traffic light system. So I knew that if I was running on the flat, this is really easy because I know I'm high carb and I'm able to consume it because it's easy for me. Then two other things I did differently this year is, instead of saying, a lot of people will fuel for the hours required. So it might be 2-3 hours, whatever. So in each pocket, you'll have the fuel for those hours. Whereas in each pocket of my pack, I had it was geographical location. So I know between this checkpoint and this checkpoint, I need to finish what's in here. So time almost didn't matter. If I was running it the right effort, time will take care of itself. So it was really easy. Cool. From this point to this point, I just need to finish what's in this pack, this in this pocket. And I actually built in 2 extra pockets, one on either side, because there were some places where I wanted extra pockets so I could differentiate my carbs a little bit more and my energy a little bit more, so I didn't get confused. Because basically ultra running, you're so tired, things need to be really easy. And if you don't understand what you're doing when you're fresh, when you're 20 hours deep into weather like this, things are going to go seriously wrong. And then the final thing that I did, if you imagine you're going uphill and it's 2-3 degrees, it started snowing, you've got really thick gloves on, you've got a waterproof jacket done up. The last thing you want to do is go into a pocket, take a gel out, open the gel, consume the gel, put the wrapper back in your shorts or in a pocket, zip everything back up, put your glove back on, put your pole back on. That takes ages rather than just having a drink. So on every uphill, we changed our nutritional strategy to just fluid, because going like that is significantly easier than going through all of the gels. So I would advise people, especially if the weather's going to be like this, when you're going uphill, just liquid. Especially if it's cold, because I get really cold hands and that's miserable.
No stone left unturned. You can tell now the approach that Tom's taking.
No stone left unturned. So that top is an ASICS tennis top. The zip normally goes to sort of sternum height, just above sternum height. I took it to a very nice seamstress in Loughborough and asked, oh, can you extend the zip? Because at night, because the checkpoint where you end up changing is at about 8 a.m. and it typically gets quite warm in this valley. So I thought, oh, I'm going to want to cool myself down, even though it had been snowing at night. It made a huge difference. And I've not seen anyone else do that. So find what works for you and look at courses and things. But again, I wouldn't have known that in my first year. Also, having a headlamp on your waist is an absolute game changer in shit conditions. So excuse my language. I'd never done it before. I saw a couple of Americans do it, because typically Americans are useless at running in the dark. And it lights up so much. It's just absolutely incredible. And on that, it's a night core. I wasn't sponsored at the time, so I couldn't say it. It was absolutely incredible. But yeah, I'll share my night core discount code now.
Let's just talk about the weather though, because I was out there watching this year and going through the night. We were at Notre Dame de la Gorge. It was biblical, wasn't it? The weather was absolutely horrendous. And, you know, we've chatted about this a lot. As you were climbing up, you made the decision quite early on to put your waterproofs on before, you know, it was almost like you did it before you knew it was going to get really bad. And a lot of people chose not to do that. So it's almost as well making those key decisions at the right time as well, because ultimately some of the people in the race paid the price, didn't they, for not being prepared early enough.
Yeah, there's a very, very good French runner called Francois Dane, who's won UTMB 4 times. He was running in the front group with about 15, 20 of us at the beginning. He didn't put his waterproof jacket on, so no one else did. Because I think everyone was just copying. They thought, oh, Francois is probably going to win this year. We'll just copy what he's doing. He didn't put his jacket on, so no one else put their jackets on. So I was like, why are you not putting your jackets on? It's absolutely pissing it down. So I put my jacket on really. I was the first to put my jacket on. And even if it's just saving a little bit of energy, you're a little bit drier, it makes a massive difference. And I was incredibly lucky that I had an amazing crew who got to every checkpoint really easily. So I changed my waterproof jacket at every aid station that I was able to, because it was wet and it was cold. And actually just the feeling of putting on a clean, fresh t-shirt, a new jacket, a new pair of gloves just feels really nice. And yeah, it makes how's a good place there? Or feed it. And it makes such a massive difference. And again, if you can smile and if you can get something that feels good. So if you're ever in a race and you've got the opportunity to have a drop bag, change your t-shirt. It might take 10 seconds extra. If 10 seconds is the difference between you winning and not winning a race, then find 10 seconds somewhere else, because changing a t-shirt is genuinely gonna make a massive difference.
We've got the shoes there. While we're talking about equipment and clothing, let's talk about the shoes, because you signed for ASICS in January this year. A big move, totally different move, different brand. But this, you're wearing a prototype here. Talk us through like your involvement now in the kind of footwear with ASICS. Is it going to be something that, or is it something so far that you've had some involvement with to date, or is it going to be something that you're going to be continuing to develop as the future goes on?
Yeah, I think a lot of people were quite surprised that I moved from Adidas Terex to ASICS, and I can completely see why people thought that. But I think for me, wanting a new chapter, I had an amazing time at Terex. It produced some amazing shoes, and I was fortunate enough to help with that. With ASICS, I've not had any involvement at all in the shoe that's coming out next year, but I've already had involvement in the 2027 and 2028 editions. And yeah, I think for me, it was just, I wanted that breath of fresh air. I wanted something a little bit different. ASICS have been wanting to really grow in trail running, and they have made a shoe. I think a lot of trail running shoes end up, so the first edition of those shoes were it was a road shoe, and you just slap a trail grip on it. And that's typically what's happened in previous iterations with every brand. It's, let's take the road shoe, let's make it a little bit wider, a little bit more stable, put some grip on the bottom. But at the end of the day, the DNA is a road shoe. And that is, in my opinion, the first elite racing shoe with trail running DNA. It has been built up, it's been built from the trail up. And I hadn't tested that shoe before I signed with ASICS. I'd seen pictures, I had spoken to other athletes, I had spoken to the designers about the shoe. And there were some things that I was worried with. I was really worried about the seal at the top. Typically, I would rather a way more sturdy ankle support, but actually what they've done there is created something incredibly unique and actually patented it. It's honestly an incredible shoe. I got given 3 pairs of those before UTMB, and I've repped one of them that I raced in. One are pretty battered, and I've not worn another pair because I'm like, these are absolute gold dust. And until they come out next year, yeah, I'm sure I can get some more. But and if I can't, I think it's coming seriously wrong. If anyone else is a UK 10.5, I'll accept some offers. Check out my wife's Vinted account.
Is she selling the pair that had the Red Bull in that you were drinking? I mean, that's going to be worth something, that, right? Because that picture was quite iconic now. It's going to go down in history.
That went viral on the Chinese version of Instagram, which is, absolutely mental. I don't know why they loved it so much.
I was genuinely going to fill one up for you and offer you as a drink today, but I forgot to get the Red Bull in. This is great, but there we go. Almost perfect timing there. Thanks, like you probably put that on the right time there. If it wasn't, it was a massive coincidence. Just talking about the performance, you obviously won the race. This year, the route had to be changed slightly. It wasn't too far different. We know that. But what is interesting is that your UTMB index from the race is the highest ever recorded, which suggests to me, had the race route been identical to previous years, you would have got the record, right?
Yeah. In one way, it's a little bit annoying, but for me, it's not. I don't care about that stuff. It's a nice to have. Jim said in maybe the pre-World Championships I run far podcast that my performance at UTMB is the best performance ever at UTMB. And I think for someone like Jim to say that is a testament to him as a person and athlete, but then also to the performance it was. Like, it was all the stars aligned, amazing performance. Will I be able to replicate? I don't know. I'll definitely try to. But yeah, the course was a little bit different. It was a bit longer at the beginning. They added a couple of K at the beginning, but then they took out a climb, a technical descent, and 5K in the middle. So it does make it shorter by about 1.5 K, a mile, and with about 250 meters less climbing. But yeah, I see it as the fastest time, and on all of my bonuses for this year, I'm claiming as a course record.
And so would I. So would I. I think Strava suggests that as well, because I've looked at all your segments and everything, and
Yeah, I
you were
think
quite up.
from Courmayeur, so from 80k or 90k to the finish, it was the quickest by 20 minutes. And I think that's what going into the race, from my coach Scott Johnson, it was, yeah, if you want to win the race, first you've got to finish the race. So we knew if we got to 2/3 of the way through, like I know I can close quicker than anyone else. I've got the course record in the final third at Western States. I had the course record from Vallecine to the finish line when I was third. I was 15 minutes quicker than Killian. I know that if I get to the end, I can outperform. I can push harder than anyone else can if I need to. And yeah, you just got to get there. And in the previous 2 editions, I hadn't let myself go there because I got too carried away at the beginning and tried to race it from the gun. Whereas with a little bit of more racing nous and a little bit of more sensible athlete ultra running head on, then yeah, you can get to the end and then finish it. Oh, another tip. That's a fairly disgusting photo. But does anyone when they're running get like flavor fatigue, or their mouth feels fairly horrible and you feel like you need to brush your teeth? And there's been a lot of documenting about Courtney Dauwalter brushing her teeth, and a lot of people think because she's quite kooky and it sort of fits in a daily habit, but actually brushing your teeth or using the strongest mouthwash that you can actually find, what it does is it basically breaks down all of the sugar from the gels and the sweetness in your mouth and resets everything. So if your mouth starts going, well, you feel like you can't consume anything else because you've got flavor fatigue, a little bit of mouthwash, and you can buy like tiny little sachets that weigh 5 grams. And again, if 5 grams is the difference between you being comfortable and not, I suggest find 5 grams somewhere else. Makes an absolutely massive difference. And that's something that we incorporate into racing this year, and just swilling the mouthwash, just reset everything. So I could, go off everything. So you see people brushing their teeth and you think, oh, that's really cool and quite kooky and a little bit different. But actually it's a performance strategy that she's been implementing forever and no one else has picked up on it. But I didn't brush my teeth, I just used mouthwash.
Some great tips there, though. Great tips. Just going back as well, we talked about the time there and how well you ran, and are you looking at the splits all the time on the Garmin? What have you got up on the screen? I'm just interested to know, are you constantly flicking between different images of the route? Are you looking at time? Are you working to splits? So you're on the Enduro, right? That's right.
This is the Fenix 8 Pro we saw a lovely advert for. And that's Joseph. Who's my data guy, who's very sweet. What I was looking at was, I use Pace Pro a lot on Garmin. So it's basically telling you how long the climb is of distance and also elevation. And that's, for me, it's just being able to say, oh, cool, it's only 6K with, let's say, 1,000 meters of climbing left. And I just break it down and say, oh, 6K, well, that's the same from running from home to this point on the trail that I know. And I just break it down like that. I use that a lot. I have the route up quite a lot, especially at night, just for a little bit of confidence. But then, I know the UTMB course backwards now. And if you gave me a picture of somewhere on the course, I reckon I could give you within 500 meters of where the course is. The data screens, I have time, pace, heart rate. And for the race, that's all I had. And actually, we trained all on heart rate during the race, but for some reason on race day, my heart rate monitor wasn't working. So at the first check, when I pulled my heart rate monitor off and threw it in my crew and said, I don't know why this isn't working, but I'm just going on feel. And I think it's so important that you collect all of this data, and the data is so valuable and it's so important. I would always train with heart rate, but you understand what that feels like. And I think when I'm at my best, I could do a tempo, I could do a session, and I could say, oh, this is my heart rate now. Look at my watch and know what it is. Because heart rates, you would think, oh, you're trail running, what's the point with heart rate? Basically, your heart rate that's the engine, that's what's burning. The higher your heart rate is, the more carbohydrates you're burning. So if you're only budgeting for 100 grams of carbs an hour, but your heart rate's such that you're burning 120 out, 120 is almost like the strength of the fire burning everything. If you're spending more than you have in your budget, you're going to run out. So I use heart rate as a intensity control. But then during the race, I went off my wrist, and it's still really good, but it was wet, so which changed a little bit. But then go a lot on feel. And if you learn what the feel and the heart rate sync up to, then if things do go wrong, which they do, you then know what to do.
Yeah. Just conscious of time, I could sit and ask you questions all night. But one thing I do want to ask, UTMB now, we can put a big tick next to that. Is there an appetite to go back, win it again, leave a legacy on UTMB, the likes of, say, Francois and Killian, who've won it, say, 4 times? Or is there other races that interest you? Is there something else you want to do? Or what's the aim next? What does the future hold for Tom Evans?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I absolutely loved UTMB this year, and all the weeks before UTMB, I said, right, this is my last attempt before taking a year off, and that's pretty quickly gone out the window. And I'm 99% sure I'll be back at UTMB next year. I think for me, the other big races that that really stick out, Hard Rock 100s in the US, but there are no shortcuts of getting in. So I will hopefully get in next year, but who knows? Next year will hopefully look like I'll open my season at Trans-Gran Canaria, North Face race, and upset some North Face athletes, hopefully. That's always fun. And then, I'll then race, probably won't do anything for a while. I like having big training blocks leading into races. I'll then race Hard Rock and then come back home and then back out to UTMB. I definitely want to attempt a Bob Graham round at some point. It's probably looking a bit more likely to do a winter round rather than a summer round. I think it's really difficult to fit training for a Bob Graham round and a UTMB in at the same time. But I think we've now got to, as professional athletes, you've got to look at UTMB a little bit like the professional triathletes see Kona. If you're fit, you have to race it. It's what, as a professional athlete, it's kind of what you're paid to do. It's the biggest eyes on the sport. It's the biggest advertising. It's the biggest marketing, the biggest race. And from every aspect, it makes it worth my while to do it and to go and try and have a good race. There's a lot I'd like to, I guess the Mount Rushmore of trail running at the moment is Western States, UTMB, Hard Rock, and a race in Reunion Island called Diagonal de Fou. So far, it's myself, Killian, and Jim Walmsley who have won Western States and UTMB. Killian has obviously won everything. But I think being just 3 of us for those 2 races on the men's side is really cool, and far more women have done it because they're far better trail runners than we are. But I would definitely like to I'd like to race Hard Rock, and then also Diagonal de Fou. They're so outside of my comfort zone that it's really fun. And for me, like a Western States is really cool, but I find it relatively easy to train for. You just need, basically, the person who's quickest on the day will win the race. Whereas UTMB, the person who's trained the best will win the race.
Great answer. And I'm glad you got the Bob Graham in there, because at some point I was going to mention it as well. We'd love to see you go for that one. I'd love to see the record back in the hands of a Brit. And if you could do that, Tom, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, no pressure.
If you do that for us, that's all we ask. Yeah,
I'm pretty good mates with Jack, who's currently got the record, and even he thinks that there's quite a lot of time still out there. His aid stations were really good, but he reckons if he was doing it again a couple of weeks after, he reckon he could get like 7 to 10 minutes quicker. So I definitely think with the right team and with the right support and definitely with the right weather, then it's possible to do. But also for me, it's just, I remember as getting into the sport, reading about the Bob Graham round, and this is where trail running started, and it's ultimately why I'm here now and why the Kendal Mountain Festival is growing and growing and growing, especially in the trail running world. Then going and respecting it. The last thing that I want to do is rock up to Keswick on a Friday night and say, hi, I'm here to do the Bob Graham round, and everyone be like, well, okay, great. Like, you've not bought into it. For me, I want to I want to really buy into. I want to buy into the community. I want to spend time getting to know who may or may not want to pace me and trying to convince people to pace me, and really buy into the local culture, spend time here, get to know the people and get to really understand the community. Because to me, the Bob Graham round isn't about performance. Yes, I know we joke about saying, oh, it'd be amazing having it back in the hands of a Brit. But I think we need Brits trying to get it. It doesn't matter if you get it or not, but doing it and doing it properly, I think, is more important. I'd rather do it properly and fail rather than do it without paying the right respect and getting a record. For me, what makes it really special is the community and everything surrounding you.
Perfectly said. I mean, I couldn't have, couldn't have said that any better. I think you really understand, obviously, what the Bob Graham is about. So it'd be phenomenal to see you at some point when you can fit it in, because it's a busy schedule, to go for that record. I'm just conscious of the time, conscious that I've got a race to organise, and Soph obviously is running as well. But it's been wonderful to talk to you, Tom, giving us the insights that we all wanted to know about your ultra running career. It's clear to see that you don't leave anything. What's the saying you've got? I said no stone unturned. Yeah. Is that right? Yeah. I mean, nothing's left to chance, is it? Everything's thought about, everything's considered, everything's measured, and it just shows that it works because you've performed unbelievably well on the world's biggest stage. So we're very, very proud of you. We thank you for being here and sharing your story with us. We hope it's not going to be the last time, because we're hoping to be here again next year, certainly. Tom is going to be around. I was hoping to do some questions from the audience, but I've run out of time. I've been talking too much. I'm sorry. But I think you're going to stay maybe for a few minutes. If anyone's got any questions, you want to get some pictures with Tom. So before we give him a round of applause, I just want to, before I forget again, draw your attention back to this little competition I've got going. In the corner of one of the flyers is a star. It's been drawn on with a Sharpie by my colleague Claudia. If you have the flyer that's got the star on, come and find me at the end. You've won a Yeti with the Sports Shoes branded logo on, and you've won some Kickback coffee. There we go. Oh, and we've also got a signed hat for you as well from Tom Evans. There we go. ASICS coming up with the goods there, and we thank Tom for doing that. But can we just have a huge round of applause, please, for our guest, Tom Evans?
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate you having you here. So, yeah, great stuff. Thanks, man. Smashed it.